Good.
Hello, Joe. Hello, everyone that might be listening and watching. This is Effie Amanatidou. I am a innovation and research policy analyst. My field of expertise lies with foresight, social innovation. But today we are going to listen to Joe Ravetz. He's the author of the book Dipper City Collective Intelligence and the Pathways from Smart to Wise. But before we go on to the interrogation, Joe, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
About myself, well, it's a long story, but let's say I did not try to have a conventional career, and I was an Indian mystic in the desert. I was a rock and roll musician. I was a squatter activist in London. I was a builder and carpenter in the north of England. Then I went to be an architect, and from there I got into community development and into sustainable development. And then I created a quite interesting project called the Sustainable City Region. So that's kind of some backstory. And as I was saying, the ideas in this book here, which it's quite shiny, it's a kilogram. It's a really heavy thing with high density paper. So you get your money worth. The ideas in here kind of started about 30 years ago. The writing started maybe 8 years ago. So, you know, a good idea sometimes takes time to cook up, and also it takes time for the world to get used to it. So, that's more or less how it came about. And actually, maybe I could just share with you one little picture about your question. And as you can see, this is the cartoon version of me. Starting in the 1980s, everyone was arguing about everything. In the 1990s, a new word, sustainability, emerged with a bigger kind of picture. And then if this recording is working, we set up a research program. We had a research center. And all the time we could see, people are trying to talk about this elephant, which you can see down there. Is it a snake? Is it a tree? Is it something, which we cannot find a name for? No, it's an elephant. So to explore the nature of that elephant, this thing that seemed to be missing, I realized, and many of my colleagues, we had to talk about not only things, but thinking. How people communicate, how they learn, how they organize, how they create new ideas, and so on. So this thinking project then became the object of my attention really for 15 years and more. And of course, huge questions come up, how can you draw thinking? How can you get 10 years of research into 3 bullet points? So that's kind of the starting point.
Okay. But, you should also explain to us what is the book, who is the book for? How they can use it.
Who is the book for? Well, I could say roughly, it's anyone who is interested in the big question, how can humans live in peace and prosperity on one planet? And here we have a little graphic which comes from a workshop I once did for global transformation, of all things. And at that time, technically, it seems unlikely. 6 to 9 billion people, they want to be middle class and affluent and have nice cars and holidays, just like the richest 1 or 2 billion. How can this work? No guarantees. So in the biggest sense, the book is for anyone who wants to explore these questions, as I do. In particular, it's for people who are interested to create new ways of society to work together, new ways for economic activity to be organized, maybe new technologies, but not just smart or clever technology that just helps, monitoring to be better, but rather technology which enables people, which empowers people, and so on. And it all comes at the end of the day to the political system. How can this work? As we see at the moment, the political system tends to increase the difference between the rich and the poor, and it is still nowhere near managing the global environment and climate change in a way which is sustainable. So we have to, at the end of the day, look for the political system. So the book is for anyone who is interested in these things and interested in new ways of doing these things. You'll notice that I use visual thinking a lot. In my experience, this is a very powerful way to get started on new ways of thinking. If you can draw it, you can probably see it, or you're some way towards seeing it. And this is the other part of that picture, which is a set of what ifs. If humans can get their act together, if we can learn something about the collective intelligence, if we can map some of these pathways from smart to wise, then maybe we have a chance. So this is a what if cartoon guide. And also the cartoons, maybe they help a wider audience. I show this now and again to kids. I say, oh yeah, I like that cartoon, you know. So this is a great thing. Maybe I can do a you know, school kid version next year or something.
Yeah, you might consider that.
Yeah,
okay, well, I mean, a lot of challenges. This is, I mean, the mission behind it is very challenging. But then, you know, one more challenge. If you can use a couple of slides to take us through these concepts that you use, what is a diversity, what is a pathway, what are the, you know, smarts and whys, what's, I mean, things like that have been here for some time, especially, you know, the whys polity of Plato, like, you know, more than 2,000 years ago. So what is new about the idea behind the book?
Sure. Well, this is my favorite question. And well, first on the difference from smart to wise. Well, I started to look at my problem. My problem 10, 20 years ago was to say, okay, we know about climate change, we know about poverty, we know about the lack of housing, and so on. Are all these functional problems? Do we just need to be more clever? So I started to analyze, and this is a cartoon of the clever kind of city and a clever kind of brain, you know, or thinking pattern. And if it's all very clever, okay, we can solve a complicated functional problem. And then we look at the effects on the city, and unfortunately, we have the governments by the elite, we have mass industrial production, we have local waste and pollution, and so on. And then we look at their problems. The problems are complex, many layered. There are the human problems. But most of our policy and our technology is simple. It's monofunctional. It says, oh, here's a problem, how do we fix it? So then we have another version, which is called SMART. And in the scheme, the SMART is about, it has a philosophy of evolution, of innovation and competition. And in a smart kind of city, which you see in the bubble, we have something like a managed democracy. But guess what? The elite still is elites. The rich are still rich. We have advanced capitalist production and consumption. And the effect is we have now globalized our waste, our climate change, our pollution and depletion of resources. So we can have clean green cities here in Manchester or Stockholm or something. We globalize our impacts. And the philosophy here, it's kind of neoliberal. Business is a force for enterprise and innovation. But even the smartest business is also self-serving. It looks after itself. It's profit-seeking. So then we say, okay, is there an alternative? Is there a wiser city? And here we look for different kinds of thinking patterns. And you see the little cartoon, which, I mean, this is just a sketch. We can go much further into, you know, neurology, research, and so on. And we look for the shape of the city. And we say, oh, here's a city where everybody seems to be working together. How do they do this? Well, maybe we have a government which is more collaborative, associational. They look for links between people, not to have some big hierarchy. And for the resources, we circulate everything. We internalize our impacts, and so on. How do we do this? Well, this is a change in the collective intelligence. It's a change in the way that people think and then use that thinking to construct the different parts of society, the government system, the economic and finance system, the technology system, and so on and so on. All of this then adds up to what we can then say, oh, this is a city, but it's a deeper city. We're not just talking about the buildings, the streets, you know, the physical form. We're talking about the psychology, the economic motivation, the trust of the people in the government, and the trust of the government in the people. And all of these things start to add up, and they interact. And so if we are serious about real change, we look for the synergies between, not just to say, oh, here is a problem and how do we fix it? We say, how do we transform this place? Now, this is a big project. It's not going to be done in one day. But it's also the case that there are there are many examples, countless examples of where this is happening in many, many countries, in many, many ways. You and I last met once in Thessaloniki, where social innovations, you know, fantastic work going on, even in the most difficult situation of, you know, Greece and the difficulties and so on. Same in Manchester, same in India or Brazil and so on. So we look for these seeds and say, yeah, this is something we could learn from, build on. This is something that leads us from the smart to the wise, or at least wiser, and so on. So does that answer the question more or less?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, more or less.
More or less.
And well, I mean, let's go a little bit more about the sort of, you know, you are making a lot of metaphors, and you're using names from Greek mythology, like Gaia, like Athena, like Chimera. Any other traditions that you felt like using in writing the book, or you feel like they are kind of very close to the ideas that you promote?
This actually emerged bit by bit, which is the idea that, as I mentioned, we're talking about a deeper city. It has deeper layers of psychology, of culture, of mythology even. It's quite close to my friend Sohail Inayatollah and his causal layer analysis, where he also tries to explore these deeper layers. And then I thought, okay, so in each of these deeper layers, the deepest layer is maybe one of, you know, mythology, archetype, as you might say. And these things are not so simple. There is usually some story, there is usually some struggle or transformation. And then I realized, okay, so each of my main chapters, which cover cities, economies, ecologies, technologies, and politics, each of this has some kind of story right in the middle. And then the question was, is there an overall story which expresses what we are trying to do? And then I remembered, oh, years ago, I read about the Gaia hypothesis. And Gaia, as I'm sure you know, being Greek, is the great-grandmother of everything, and the name of, you know, the mythical name for the earth, right? I'm sure you know more than me. The Gaia hypothesis originated by James Lovelock, who is now 101 years old and still writing books, right? It was scientifically controversial because he was saying, well, guess what? The Earth is a really complex thing, but all these systems, they seem to work together. You know, the ocean system, the atmospheric system, the radiative stuff coming in, the vegetation cycle, the biochemical, carbon and nitrogen, all these things seem to interact just to maintain some kind of steady state, which then enables life to evolve. And I thought, wow, this is great. But he was very criticized in the scientific community because other scientists with another kind of mindset said, well, there's no proof of this. You know, how can you possibly prove these things? You know, it's just some weird idea, you know, that suggests maybe there is a God after all. And, you know, maybe we're really not sure about that. This is not a scientific idea. Anyway, so whether it's scientific or not, it's not our problem right now. But my problem was then to say, okay, so we can look at this Gaia thing and then say, what about the humans? The humans come along and they mess it all up. They climate change, they fill the ocean full of plastic and toxic chemicals, they cut down the forests, they really mess it up. So then we say, oh, maybe there's another hypothesis, which, well, in this slide here, this is labeled the one planet hypothesis because it says, is it possible for humans to live on one planet? The other name for this is then the Athena hypothesis. And Athena is the great-granddaughter of Gaia, and also the goddess of wisdom, of cities, of technology, of law, and a whole bunch of things. Obviously a very wise person, a wise goddess, of course. So to call this hypothesis Athena, this seemed to fit. Now, again, I cannot prove this hypothesis any more than I can prove the existence of the goddess Athena. It's not the kind of question that you want to prove. What you can say is this relevant to help us understand, the human condition and the human potential? And I think so, yes. As you say, well, the other parts of the book use some others from, Scandinavian mythology, Buddhist mythology, and so on and so on. And all these come out in the games in the final part of the book, which just not to get into any more slides, but there is a whole series of, there's a storyline, which I hope somebody might make a film of one day, which explores these subconscious things in the form of games to be played. So, interesting question about the Greek mythology.
Well, I would say, I would say that myths and stories, they bind people together, and since collaboration and co-creation is the bunch, is the really the core of the book, it very well fits together. If we go to, you just showed cartoons, and the book is full of cartoons and presentations and system diagrams and complex kind of things. One could get confused at first glance, but what do you think? So how do you think this this interplay between text and cartoons and graphs and everything? How do you think it plays all together?
Well, I'll say right now it's experimental. It's a what if. What I do know from personal experience is if you can find a way to draw something or visualize something, well, there's a saying, one picture is worth 1,000 words, and say, oh, so many, many times. And actually in the background here, here's one from a previous project about 3 years ago. And we were talking about the future of Manchester, and people come out with a lot of words, and they write down on sticky post-it notes and so on. And then we have a graphic facilitator in this project, this was me, who tries to turn these into pictures. And then we put the pictures on the wall, and then at a coffee break or lunch break, people go and look at the pictures, and they make more comments, and they have great ideas because they can see the results of that discussion. So everything in this book is actually it started on a flip chart somewhere or a whiteboard. Sometimes I do this kind of thing as a contract, and 3 days for 2,000 euros or something for the European Commission, that kind of thing. But it's more interesting to say, all these ideas, they're very difficult to fit into academic disciplines, and if you try, you get so many words. And even now, I have on my shelf, books with 80,000 words, not a single picture. Really? Oh, this is really difficult. Maybe because I was once an architect, I kind of think in pictures more than most. But I do find the pictures are a very good way to open up, to get out of the box, so to say. The diagrams, well, again, there are many diagrams, and these come when you take the pictures of like that kind of thing and say, oh, by the way, we have to get serious now and turn this into a flow chart, you know, of either who does what, or when do they do it, or what resources do we need, or if we are, let's say, some people talk about rewiring the economy, you know, because the economy is not working. They say, oh, we need to, you know, rewire, fix the wires in a different way. Okay, so we need a diagram of how the wires work now and what the problem is, and then how to make a new wiring diagram. So as soon as you do that, you're talking about diagrams, in which case, yes, you need a diagram. So I appreciate not everyone likes this stuff. Some people like the cartoons, not the diagrams. Some people like the diagrams, not the cartoons. Okay. Some people just prefer the words, so there's quite a lot of words there too. And well, you can see in this example here, just, you know, one example. So this is a drawing of, you know, a workshop, and as you can see at the top of the picture, there are people drawing on the flip charts, and some of them are drawing, you know, like a diagram. Some of them are drawing an image of a tree, and some of them are drawing, you know, some matrix or something. And again, they have a relationship with the people who are trying to do creative thinking, sitting around each table. So yeah, you know, as I say, it's work in progress, experimental. The next one might be better. Let's hope. Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, I mean, at least I want to say that I really like the drawings, and they are a very, very interesting, beautiful, cheerful break among the text. Right, so, well, yes, I mean, you pretty much hinted on that, but, you know, what do we do with the book?
What do we do? Yeah.
Okay, so how do we put these ideas into practice? Because it is, you know, what you have been addressing is you know, one and foremost world challenge.
Yeah, well, huge question, and I'm hoping that you could be part of the answer, actually. So, well, let's just finish this slide. So this is a little toolkit, or this is, you know, how the toolkit can be used. And we do different kinds of mapping and design. And we organize events, workshops or labs or something. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to map the possibility of a collective intelligence wherever we are. So the events in the next couple of months include food, climate change, futures work, local government, slums. We have an agenda for Slum 3.0 in Johannesburg, and so on and so on. In other words, this is a toolkit which you can use in any one of those kind of things. And also to say that the book, again, it offers these 40 or so pathways, you know, everything from finance to food and so on. But these are not like the answer. It's not to say, oh, do it like this and everything will be fine. It really doesn't work like that. It is saying, here's an example done with the best of my experience and that of all my friends. Now it's over to you, you know. So here's a toolkit. I'll help if possible, resources, websites, and so on. And if we spend enough time using this kind of toolkit, we start maybe to evolve what I've now called a collaboratorium. And this is a laboratory for collaboration. And again, it could work in food, finance, energy efficiency, anything that you are interested to make a transformation in. And in that kind of collaboratorium, as you can see from the little graphic, we have different kind of flows of knowledge and human energy. We have different kind of spaces for innovation, experimentation. We have different kind of stones for like stepping stones, milestones, keystones even, and spaces for thinking and dreaming. So this is a very rough and ready sketch for something which I think will emerge and evolve over the next few years. So I will be very, very happy if, you know, this book helps that to take shape and bring into focus. and generate many, many cartoons and stories and dreams, you know, all over the place. And I do hope to be part of that myself. So that's really where we're at and where we hope to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I may, as a last line, I find it very, very inspiring. I would urge people to read the book, because I can see that there are seeds of alternative ways of thinking, including visual thinking. But you know, it might provide the way forward to a different forward until the one that we have taken up until now. So very well done. Thank you very much. I wish you the best of luck. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, I'll take.
Would you like to say something about upcoming events and for the book?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I should have provided a link. But well, there'll be links on the website. But yeah, urban3.net is the main site where these events are coming up, and anyone who sees this will also get the link, I think. So yeah, everybody is welcome to participate and draw cartoons and diagrams online. We have a new technology to do this. So I welcome your best ideas. Everybody might see this. And thanks very much, Effie, for a good interview, good positive energy. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, bye for now. See you soon.
Bye. Bye-bye.